Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. Be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when the next video comes out. It only takes 2 seconds to make 2 clicks. So let's do it. Let's get back to the video.
Hello, Fearless Freedom Tribe. It is Dr. G, and welcome back to another week of awesomeness. Today, I have Regina Huber, and she's going to tell you all about who she is and what she is up to.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Jermaine. It's a delight to be here with you, and I love the title of your podcast. So yeah, I was looking forward to this.
Awesome. And so, you know how I like to be very transparent on this show, and I just have to let you know that we had quite the adventure getting this up and running today, I will say, because we tried all the things, all the iterations, tried to figure out what was going on with the audio. I could hear her, she couldn't hear me. We flipped platforms, we did all this stuff. And I want to say that even before we got started with this recording, clearly we demonstrated ultimate patience and ultimate tenacity, because it was meant for us to speak today. It was meant for her to share with you her awesomeness. So, oh my goodness, I just want you to let you know that, because, a lot of times, you don't know what happens behind the scenes. And you know how they always say, like, there's all this chaos before the show goes on. Well, there was a little bit of chaos before this show went on today. So just sharing it with you, tribe. So Regina, I want to tell everybody what you do, like what you're up to.
Yeah, sure. So my complete name is Regina Huber. I'm the CEO and founder of Transform Your Performance with the same website. And because of my fearlessness, I could say, I got the opportunity to gather a pretty eclectic experience on 5 continents. And that included some management positions at a global consulting firm and some other gigs around the world, and also owning businesses in Argentina and Brazil before opening my current business in New York, which is Transform Your Performance. So Transform Your Performance is a coaching, training, and speaking business. And as the CEO of Transform Your Performance, I'm a multicultural transformational leadership coach and an international inspirational speaker, as well as the author of the book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine. And I've also created my signature framework for coaching, which is called Powerful Leadership Transformation, or PLT. And so I've spent a lot of time in South America, and also lived some time in Spain, 7 years to be exact, worked a lot with Portugal. I also lived in San Francisco 3.5 years, but more recently I've spent more time on the African continent, and I'm currently based in New York City. And I've also just created a brand new online course, because of course now this year a lot more is online, and it's called Own Your Brilliance to Advance Your Career. So that's it.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great. And so I am sure that you didn't just wake up one day and just said, look, I'm going to have this incredible global experience. I'm going to be making incredible impact in multiple places. What happened? Like, what got you started with that?
Yeah, it's quite amazing, because I grew up as the shyest little girl that you can imagine, the shyest girl in the tiny village that I was born into. And back then, my world was really tiny and small, and we never got to travel anywhere during vacations, because I grew up on a farm and my parents never had a vacation. Yeah. So they were pretty much tied to the same place. But deep inside, I always had this tremendous curiosity and this adventurous spirit. And this really pushed me out into the world. And even as a little girl, I would oftentimes sit in my favorite hiding place, which you will not guess it. It was the bathtub.
Oh, look at that.
The family bathtub. Yeah, I would myself lock up in the bathroom and hide in there, and I would be dreaming about faraway places and what life would be like in those places, you know. And so it's funny because even at the age of 16, I hitchhiked to Amsterdam, all the way from that little village to the Netherlands with a friend. Yeah. And she was 18, I was 16. And then at the age of 19, I left my parents' house and I moved to Munich first. And ever since, I've pretty much lived the life of a nomad. And, you know, in line with the title of your show, you could say that I'm an adventurous freedom seeker.
Nice. Wow. So that had to be, I mean, even that first experience, even though you were driven by desire to see the world, right? That sounds like was your impetus for leaving the farm and headed out to the big city, right? You must have had that sensation of like, yes, excitement, but afraid at the same time of what you would find. Like, what if when you went out there and searched the world, you did not find the places that you thought you'd find? Like, did you ever experience that?
Well, I actually think I didn't find the places I thought I would find, because the first time I moved abroad, I moved to a country that I'd never been to except for a short visit. You know, it's just an opportunity that came up for me. And that was Madrid, the city of Madrid in Spain. And I didn't speak Spanish. I had to learn Spanish before going, but I only had a few months, right? And then I just went because it was an opportunity. I didn't really, I just did it, you know. And I think I've always really been about freedom, as also my book title says, the freedom to speak up, stand out, and shine. But at the time, I wasn't aware. I wasn't doing these things as consciously as now, of course, because I just did it. I just said, okay, here's an opportunity, grab it, or it's going to be gone, right? And so every time I moved somewhere, it was a whole new world. And when I moved to Spain, it was pretty much a culture shock for me because, you know, the culture is quite different. And I had been living in a sort of big city, Munich, right? But not as big as Madrid. And it was an international place, but it still was very different. And it was quite a challenge in the beginning because Spaniards talk very fast and very loud. You know?
Fast, and then it's not always the same. Like basically, like the context of the speech is not the same as what you might learn in school, and yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
Kudos to you for just jumping right in. And I'm sure that at the end of that experience, you ended up actually being quite fluent in Spanish, no?
Yes, sure. Because I spent 7 years in Spain and another total of 4.5 years in Argentina. So I lived in Argentina twice, actually, just like in Brazil as well. And well, Brazil is, of course, Portuguese. But, you know, also while I was in Spain, I learned Portuguese because I traveled a lot to Portugal for business. And that was my chance and I grabbed it. Yeah.
Oh,
and I love languages.
You know, that's actually, so when you were in Germany, did you learn English as well as German in school?
Yeah,
my first, how you were able to do that rapid acquisition of language when you were an adult, essentially.
Yeah, no, I did learn English. Yes, I did learn English and French. So my first foreign language was actually Latin, right? Nobody speaks Latin, but it's a good basis. It's a good basis, you know, for some other languages, not so much for English, maybe as it is for French and Spanish and Portuguese. But, and I would have had a really easy time to speak Italian, and it's a beautiful language, and I think it would have been the easiest language, but of course I didn't move anywhere where Italian was spoken, so my Italian is more rudimentary. I can make myself understood during a vacation if I have to, but I don't speak it fluently, no. But I did certainly study English and French at school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. That is huge, because I know even for myself, when I tried
Mhm.
to learn another language, it was much more difficult as an adult. Whereas my
Yeah.
children, they just pick it up really quickly. And so,
Yeah.
you know how it is as adults. We tend to have more hardwired circuits, and so therefore we're not as easy to learn big things like that, like a whole other language. Even though I did learn another language when I
Absolutely.
went to vet school, so it's
Okay.
possible.
Yeah, but it's good, because it's really good to open up your mind. It's not just the travel itself, which is of course sometimes even mind blowing, but it's
Yeah.
also when you learn a language, you learn a different way to think, because as you said earlier, it changes not just the structure of a sentence, but also the words you use, and there are certain words that are not translatable. Um, there's so much richness of culture in a language, so you automatically learn a lot
Yes.
through a language. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. Fantastic.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, that is really, really neat, and I'm sure that you are going to be inspiring quite a few people who are listening to the podcast, because, everybody has been focused on being at home as basically, we're trying to do what we can to make sure that we do not end up ill, or help, be a conduit through where others can also become ill. So, talking about travel, talking about being in different places is very inspiring and encouraging. So, thanks for sharing your experiences. So first you went from the farm to the big city, and then from there you went to the opportunity in Spain, in Madrid. And then you said that you were going back and forth to Portugal for business, and then you ultimately ended up in Argentina. Did you go to Argentina immediately after you left Spain, or how did that part happen?
So it actually was Brazil first. I went to
Oh,
Brazil
Brazil.
for
Okay.
almost 6 months, and then I went back to Germany for almost 2 years and did some international projects all over Europe. And after that, I moved to Argentina, but I had been to Argentina briefly for business before. That's when I also left, the consulting firm where I was working at, and I left for Argentina for another. It was a startup, and I did some work for them. But of course, it was not a real employment situation. I was an outside consultant, and then the Argentinian crisis hit, and I got hired back into my previous firm into their San Francisco office. So I went to San Francisco. I also, in the meantime, had spent some time in Brazil again, and blah, blah, blah. It's all like back and forth. But I spent 3.5 years in San Francisco. And from there, I moved back to Argentina. I left my well-paying job behind, and I just traveled to another continent with a dream in my pocket. And I wanted to open a bed and breakfast for dancers. And I love dance. Okay. So, and for Buenos Aires. And I did that, and there's a few really exciting stories just in that, of course, because there's so much adventure in my life. But for example, I had to pay for the house I bought for the bed and breakfast. I had to pay in cash and in dollars, and I had to bring it from one bank to the other. And I was literally carrying that money, several $100,000 in my socks across the city.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. There has to be some fear involved in that. What if somebody took it from you en route?
Know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, see, the issue was I didn't have a car, and it wasn't safe. It wasn't supposed to be safe to take a taxi right outside the bank, because there was a lot of going on with the taxi drivers. Yeah.
Oh, no.
So I was walking and walking, and then after a while I took a cab. But it was quite adventurous. But I figured, if you want to get something really bad or achieve something really bad, you sometimes got to take a risk.
That's true.
Yeah.
After you've done that, that's when the humongous breakthroughs happen.
Yeah, although I wouldn't recommend it. Okay.
No, yeah, for sure. And also, I mean, this wasn't like yesterday or last year or something like that. So I don't know like what the environment was as far as, crime or whatever it was at that time. So, wow.
Yeah, it was definitely a risk. That's how much I can say. I mean, people did all sorts of things to move around those dangerous situations, and it's not the safest thing to do, that's for sure. But anyway, so
you tell a story and you're unscathed, so there you go.
Yeah, now I have a story to tell, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but there's a lot, there's so many stories. I've had a gun to my head, I've got a knife to my chest, I've run for my life a few times, and that was actually not necessarily there,
So like, blasé, like, yeah, God, I had to cut my head up, knife to my chest, I had to run for my life a few times. You didn't just say you run for your life once. You were like, I ran for my life a few times.
Twice, yeah, okay. I guess, yeah. That was in Rio de Janeiro.
You brought that up, and my audience is like, what is going on? So you gotta tell at least one of those stories. Like, why would you ever have a gun to your head, and why would you ever have to run for your life more than once?
Well, the gun to my head was more actually because I was moving around Rio de Janeiro with a tourist friend from Germany. And, I sort of knew how to move with money, how to do all these things. So she wanted to exchange money, and it was a pretty big amount she wanted to exchange at a bank. And that was not originally in our plans. And there are not so many places, so we had to go somewhere a little farther away. And I told her at the time, really give me half of your money. I would always usually have a crossover bag, but that day I didn't have one because I wasn't really prepared for it. But so I had a clutch bag, which I hardly ever did, but it actually probably saved my life. So then she had part of the money, I had part of the money. We were walking into the garden area of a restaurant, and there was literally a security guy standing in front of us. An armed security guy standing in front of us. And as she already was in, and I was walking in, and a guy grabs me. They came in a motorcycle, and they grabbed me by the arm, and literally said and pulled a gun out and said, give me the money. They must have, worked in a gang and observed us already. And I gave him my clutch bag, but I had the money in my pockets. So I did not give the money. He had my, the keys. I had to make the keys again and all of that. But there was maybe $60 in my bag, and, and a phone. It wasn't a super expensive phone. So yeah, but the money was in my pockets.
Oh my gosh.
So he ran away with the bag, they disappeared, but the security guy didn't do anything. So yeah, that's what happened. And you move differently as a tourist. I had been living there for a while, and of course, I do things differently. Yeah, you're still not safe, because there were people who lived in favelas, the dancer friends that I used to dance with, who got killed for a few bucks, on a van or something. But at least you know how to move when you're not a tourist, But I also have to say, I've also been to places in Johannesburg that not even my local friends go to, and I didn't go by myself. I wasn't stupid and just went, but I did go with some locals, but it was still not without a risk. But I wanted to just really have some great adventures and see. I always am really curious what life is really like in certain areas. And I also did night bike rides through Johannesburg and all of that when visiting. So yeah, my adventures fill more than a book, I think.
Oh my gosh. You're not kidding. Wow. Wow. And then, the insane piece of this is that you're like, it's like, oh yeah, this happened in this country. And then when I went here,
But I've been very
Took a risk, and
protected.
there was there was a reward, and here I am to tell the story. It's fantastic.
But you can go with me because I feel like I'm protected. I don't know. I just somehow know I have a long life and I'm protected.
Well,
And
you have
so,
guardian angel. Yeah, I should believe in
so
that. I mean, so
yeah,
that's clear.
I
That's been proven
yeah.
over and over.
I mean, it's interesting sometimes. I was in Yaoundé in Cameroon. What was it now? 2 or 3 years ago, and I was organizing a conference together with two other women, and one day I was also taking a collective taxi a few times. You're in a taxi with maybe 6, 7 other people in a
Oh
small
wow.
car, and then you tell them where you go, you negotiate the fare, and then you never know when you're actually going to get to your destination because it depends on where the other people are going. So you can end up in that taxi for an hour and a half or whatever,
Oh
right?
dear. Oh
Or
dear.
2 hours. And it's sort of weird because there's no phone network or no wireless network. So you cannot really look it up on the map on your phone. And we're so used to it now, right?
Yes. Yes.
That it's sort of weird because you're disconnected and you have no clue where you are in the city.
Wow.
But it's those are the best moments of traveling in hindsight,
Wow. That's definitely fearless. There's no doubt. Wow. That's something else.
I don't know if you sorry.
No, go ahead. You said you didn't
No,
know.
sometimes if you ask me, would you do exactly the same thing again? I don't know, because it's in the spur, on the spur of the moment. It's like in that moment, it works. I don't know. Would I do everything again? I don't know. I cannot say that for sure, but I have a huge list. I mean, we would be here forever if I.
Oh wow. No, that's great. That is great. Fantastic. And then so just let the tribe know exactly how they can get in contact with you again. So because I'm sure after listening to your stories, they're going to want to get in contact with you.
Yeah, and I also had my pain stories where I had to really start over from scratch, like 9 years ago, when I moved to New York City, and all these things. I've shared them in many other podcasts, so it's been broadly shared. But yeah, one last sentence I want to say though is really that everything I do is in the service of freedom. That is really the one thing that that is so important for me, and I will never sacrifice freedom for safety. Yes, I will not do it. I will not do it because I don't think it's worth it. Because, several people have said before, and I can't remember who exactly, but I know it's a famous quote that once you sacrifice freedom for safety, you lose both.
Interesting.
So yeah, but where to find me? So I have two websites actually. I have my website, transformyourperformance.com. And then I also have a smaller website where I love to connect with people. It's called followregina.com. This is also where you can sign up for my mailing list or, receive free resources. There's also a free Career Accelerator mini course on that website. And then, of course, I'm on LinkedIn as Regina Huber, first and last. Also on YouTube, my channel is also Regina Huber. I share some videos there that can inspire you. And then my book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine, is on Amazon.
Fantastic. And then we have a tradition on the show, and it is fill in the blanks. And so, are you ready? Are you ready to fill in the blanks?
I am ready.
Fantastic. The first one is, if I am fearless, I will.
If I'm fearless, I will be able to move mountains.
Love it.
It's my inspirational. It's not just me, it's everybody.
I got you. No, that's fantastic. And then the next one is, to me, fearless freedom means.
I think I want to say again what I said before is never to sacrifice freedom for safety and to courageously defend this freedom. And, when it gets challenging, I connect with my heart because fear is in our mind, but courage is in our heart.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then I'm curious as what this one is. My battle cry is
freedom, the freedom to speak up, stand out, and shine, and to move, and to travel, and to dance, and to do what, to really, really live your free will and to determine your own life and path.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. It has been such a pleasure having you on the show. And I know the tribe is loving all of your energy and loving your stories. And so we really appreciate your time and being on here.
Yes, and I'm saying the same. I've enjoyed this very much. I've also enjoyed our pantomime before the show where I couldn't hear you and I was lip reading. I'm developing a new skill. See? And that's fantastic. Okay. Well, I hope to stay in touch.
Yes, absolutely. We surely will. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Again, I'm Dr. G. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe so that you can get notified of when the next episode is going to be. And also, I'll catch you next time. Have a great one. Be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.